Dogs and cats are amazing. I mean, there's a reason people own them all over the world. Docile, affectionate, and relatively easy to care for. You simply can't go wrong. But on the other hand, not everyone wants a dog or cat. Or perhaps they want to add something different to their animal family. Maybe affection is not so important, and they just want to watch fish swim behind the glass, or occasionally hold a fuzzy hamster. Perhaps they don't even mind if a pet has no hair and isn't so cuddly. For instance, people keep hermit crabs, reptiles, and armadillos. Wait, what? Yes, you heard me correctly. Three-banded armadillos make good pets. Forget what you've been told. Despite their unusual appearance, these bizarre-looking creatures are low maintenance, don't demand extensive socialization, and it's easy to keep them busy. In the wild, these active creatures are constantly searching for bugs. In captivity, armadillos simply need to be provided with enough space to run around, and you throw them something like a snuffle mat or even a blanket to hide their food in daily. That's pretty much it. I mean, I can't figure out how someone can call this animal difficult to care for. You hear zookeepers, who love using this species as an ambassador, say this all the time. But these animals simply need the right enclosure, and maybe even a wheel to run on. They do very well in captivity, and are more forgiving than many commonly kept reptiles and fish. Anyone who has ever said they make bad pets has either not owned one, or has been hired to say that. Of course, everyone is looking for something different in a pet. What defines a good pet? There is no such thing as a pet that requires zero maintenance, of course. Dogs need daily walks. Cats should really have more enrichment than they tend to get as house pets. These requirements don't make animals hard to care for. They should be an expected part of owning a social mammal. And taking this into consideration, the gray fox can be considered to make a good pet. This is a canid just like a dog. However, unlike other foxes, they don't have a strong skunky odor. This may be due to them not being true foxes. Gray foxes are not dogs, but they have a lot to offer their owners. When it comes to pet ownership, it's a give and take. Any animal with the word fox at the end of its name is going to require a certain level of care. However, so do dogs. Gray foxes need either another fox to interact with or the frequent presence of their owner. Gray foxes are litter trainable, make little noise, and are very affectionate with their owners when socialized. They have been described as laid back, cat-like, and not so destructive. As one owner writes, "My gray fox is the sweetest, most affectionate pet I've ever owned. If I had the space, I would have 100 gray foxes." Given that this is a fox-like creature, the gray fox is a great compromise if you want a stunningly unique pet without the issues that red and Arctic foxes have. Sadly, they are illegal in most places in the US because they are native animals and are simply just not accepted in our society. But if you thought a fox was a crazy pet, you're probably going to be even more appalled by a species you've never heard of. Sadly, the Asian palm civet is now rarely available in the pet trade outside of Asia. Most are not familiar with civets. They are not cats, but are in the Viveridae family with spotted genets and binturongs. Although most are not familiar with those animals either. Asian palm civets are, anecdotally, said to be calm and docile as pets. But if you don't trust owner testimonies, there's even an academic paper that declares them as one of the best exotic pets to own, among a sizable list of candidates. The animals were ranked according to traits including behavior, health, welfare, and the relationship they have with humans in captivity and the wild. In fact, palm civets, which are also famous for a coffee drink made with their droppings, are popular pets in some Southeast Asian countries. They even have festivals and meetups for palm civet owners, which are also known as musangs. The animals come in a wide array of color morphs, similar to the popular sugar gliders in Western countries. This shows that they can even be considered to be domesticates in a traditional sense. The downside of civets? Finding one. They are also not similar to the pet species most are familiar with. Don't expect the calmness of most dogs and cats, and respect them for the unique species that they are. The same goes for the paca, an amazingly beautiful, relatively large rodent that loves water. They resemble baby tapirs with their spotted coat, and have surprising grace in the water. However, pacas are not like otters in that they require a swimming pool. They are fine as household pets. The trick with getting pacas to be amazing pets is to acquire a tame individual. There is a short window during their development before they start to develop the skittishness that is commonplace in most mammals. If you socialize a paca from an early age, they can be held and cuddled with. What's better, pacas are pretty clean to maintain. They will readily urinate in a litter box filled with water with ease. And unlike other rodents such as guinea pigs and rabbits, they don't defecate often. Aside from their need for a varied fruit diet, they are not demanding animals. They are happy to munch some fresh produce in a slow feeder bowl, gnaw on some wooden chews, and won't be bouncing off the walls with excess energy. You just need a heavy-duty enclosure that is fitting for this strong animal, and you'll be good to go. Another surprisingly good pet? Another non-fox, the bat-eared fox. This is a species that is relatively new to the private pet trade, and it's receiving glowing testimonies from owners as a loving, intelligent, and interactive pet. There isn't really an exotic pet that acts exactly like a dog, but the bat-eared fox comes close. They are relatively easy to train and are willing to befriend anyone. They still have some of the skittishness present in all non-traditional pets, but depending on their level of socialization, they are reasonable to care for those with dog and cat expectations. Please remember that all foxes and fox-like animals can have a tendency to nip, but serious bites are uncommon with socialized individuals. Some extra encouragement may be needed to get bat ears to walk on a leash, and extreme caution should be used when walking them outdoors. And lastly, another pet that is surprisingly docile is something you might have seen waddling through your backyard. The Virginia opossum might put on a frightening display with its agape mouth and sharp teeth, but actually, they are quite friendly. They are notorious for their complete fake-out bluffing. Most opossum owners are unanimous. They are rarely aggressive, even those that are formally wild. To directly quote two owners, I have two. They have yet to show any aggressive behavior, have never tried to bite or even growl. They are wonderful. My baby is super sweet. I've had her since she was a baby and she has never been aggressive. On Reddit, one owner replied to a thread where many non-opossum owners were insisting that they make terrible, unethical pets. I have had many opossum, and every single response is a lie. They are not aggressive. I have even picked up wild ones.
I do not know where my bro got the nerve to pick up a possum off of the street. I have never pet a possum before in my life. I never even thought about doing it.
Sadly, these contrasting opinions of experienced owners versus exotic petless know-it-alls are commonplace. Many opossum owners keep them just like house cats, with free roam of the house or large confined area. This is reasonable for anyone to accomplish. One more thing about what might make them a good pet to some and a terrible one to others: they have a very short lifespan. If you don't want to make a 20+ year commitment to a medium-sized exotic mammal, the opossum is your perfect choice, as they have a measly life expectancy of around 4 years. This could be beneficial to the type of person who likes to make big life changes every few years or so. So let me just reiterate, are these animals good pets? They are, in my opinion. That doesn't necessarily translate to them being low maintenance, or that they will never have moments of aggression. And most importantly, there can be a massive difference between individuals depending on how they are raised. You may have seen an example of an animal on this list that is not tame and would make an obvious poor pet. There is a big difference between wild-caught animals and captive-bred hand-raised animals, in most cases. Although as previously stated, sometimes even wild animals can be tame. The takeaway of this video is that the so-called line between so-called domesticated and non-domesticated pets is imaginary. There are thousands of happy exotic pet owners across the nation and the world, so before assuming that something is a bad pet because you've never seen it before, just try to not do that. Let me know in the comments if you've had an unusual pet and what your experience was like. Until next time, remember to see pets differently.